Welcome to my farmhouse sewing room. Today I'm going to show you how to make this It's So Simple McCall's teddy bear. You can get this pattern from Walmart. Any Walmart should carry these and they're like $5. So this is a really fun pattern. These bears are fun to make for any age. Whether you're young or old, these are really fun to give and really fun to just kind of keep. So I think this one that I'm going to make today, it might be mine unless I find somebody special to give it to. So it comes with your standard directions and your tissue paper patterns, which I have all the patterns cut out, but I'm not going to use the tissue paper for my pattern. What I have done is taken all of these pieces that I need for my bear. I have gotten some of this foam. I don't even know what you call it. I think I got this at Walmart in the craft section. And what this is it's like a thick, flexible foam. So what I did is I just traced all of the pattern pieces onto a piece of this foam and cut them out. So I can use these over and over again, and I can trace them onto my fabric I'm using, or this, I'm using fleece today. Fleece is really soft, and I really didn't want to trace onto it. So what I did is I pinned all my paper, all of my foam pieces to my fabric, and I just cut around them. And you can see these have little notches on them, so I just cut out the little notches. There is a dot in this one that I need to mark on my fleece here, because that is going to help me line up the pieces when I get to it. So you can see all of these pieces I have. Here is the feet. I need to cut 2 of these, so I've got 2. The arms, I want to tell you about the arms and the legs and a few other of the pieces. The arm pieces, you need 2 for each arm. So 2 the right way, like this way, and then you're going to flip it over to the opposite way and make 2 more, so you have your reverse. So what I needed to do was cut this piece, 4 pieces, cut 2, and then I cut 2 in reverse. The head center, I only needed to cut 1, so I already have my arms made. My legs, I cut 2, and then I cut 2 in reverse. So here is my reverse set. So, and these are all wrong sides together, so you'll see that I got 2 pieces like this. So I've got those already, and I need to unpin these. The ears, I needed to cut 4. You cut 2 and you cut 2 in reverse, but you really can't mess up the ears, so I already have the ears cut. This is the head back. You cut 2, but you cut 1 in reverse. So that's what that means. The head side, we cut 2. But we cut 1 in reverse, so I have them all pinned together. So when I laid my fabric out, I kind of folded it together, right sides together, so I could cut 2 pieces, and then 1 will automatically be cut into reverse. So this is the body front. I cut 2, but I cut 1 in reverse. And what I mean when I laid them together is when I have my right sides together, and you cut them at the same time, it will give me 1 in the right direction and 1 in the opposite direction when you have the right sides together, which works well. And then I have 2 body backs, and I cut 2 and cut 1 in reverse. So I did the same thing with that. So I'm going to get this stuff unpinned, and we are going to start with the directions. And I still read these directions every time I make a bear, because I like to keep everything in order and how I do it. So let me see. I need a pin cushion to put all of my pins in. I have one over here. So I got a pin cushion, and I'm just going to kind of unpin most of my pins, but I want to leave some of my things together so I know this is the body front and the body back. I'm not going to need them right away. Same way with the arms. I'm going to put them here, but we are going to start with the head sides, and I think the head backs, and the legs and the ears I'll set aside until we get to them. I'll pull out some of these pins because we won't need them all. I have them pretty tacked down, so when I cut them, I could cut them evenly and keep them the same. So if you get this foam, you'll want to pin it down to your fabric really well when you cut it out. It keeps everything in place so nothing moves. So I'm just pulling out most of my pins, but I'm going to leave one in them to hold them together so I know which is which. And I've marked on these my center seam lines, the grain, and the body parts on all of my pieces as well. So it just kind of helps me keep everything together. And I want it to be simple to get to, so I'm just going to take out most of these pins, but I'm going to leave one of them in there just to kind of keep everything together. So I'm going to take the pin out of the head center because we're going to use this in the beginning, and we're also going to, let me get these few out. Okay. It says, stitch head sides together. So we're going to start with the head sides. Alright, I got most of the pins out. So this funny looking one here is your head sides. And it's really kind of odd with its shapes and everything. But on the bottom, this is the center front seam. So that bottom piece is what we're going to sew it on. So I'm going to take all of my pieces, or all of my pins out of this piece. And I think this part is probably the most confusing part of putting this together. If you can get past the head and the head center, you got it lit. I didn't really know how to do this in the beginning, and I had to observe another video on YouTube, and it's called Whitney Sews. So she does a really good job of explaining on how to put these pieces together, but this was the one I got stuck at. So I'm going to take these two pieces and I'm going to sew where I have this dotted line on my piece here. So I'm going to take you over to the machine, and I'm going to have my head center over here with me. So, alright, and I probably better bring over the directions because I'm going to have you follow along with me. So you got these two funny shapes, and it has the double notches here. So that's your seam line. So come on over to the sewing machine and I'll show you how to put this together. And we're going to sew it on that seam line. And seam allowance, I try to give this a generous seam allowance. I'm not sure what it says on the pattern, if it's 5/8, but I usually use a presser foot. I go alongside of my presser foot to give me enough seam allowance. And this stuff can be a little stretchy. If you find yourself sewing fleece together and it moves too much for you, you can get t-shirt stabilizer to put on the wrong side of your fleece, and it will keep it from stretching. And every time I do my first sew on this thing, the thread does not want to cut, and I don't know why that is. So, I should have a leader and ender on there. Just get that out. My machine probably needs to be cleaned. Okay, so now when I open this up, you're going to see that it opens up to this odd looking shape. This little short curve here is your neck. This top part here is where we're going to join the head center. And the head center has this little dot right at the tip of it. And that dot, I want to keep the wrong sides out because this is my seam allowance here. And I'm just going to kind of press it down. And this nose point is going to go right in the center of this, right in the center of that. I'm trying to figure out how to sew this. So, when I watched Whitney Sews do this, she started on one side, so I would put that dot right in the middle of that seam, and I'm going to curve this side of the head center up to the side of this. And it's really kind of tricky, but you can do this. So it's just a little bit of a curvature. I'm going to get my needle. I'm going to do the first couple stitches. I'm going to drop my needle. Do a couple reverse just to kind of lock it in place. And then I'm going to kind of put my seam allowances together, and I'm going to kind of curve this. So I'm going to have to take my time and kind of curve it around so that my edges line up with the bottom edge. So you want your fabrics together, but you kind of have to curve them around. This side to meet up to that side. And then cut my thread. It still didn't cut. I'm not sure why that's doing that. Okay, maybe it did cut. Okay. And my husband's home. So I'm going to clip that. And now I'm going to work on, I've got the tip of the nose sewed and I got on one side. So now I need to take this side of the head center and need to sew it up this side. And I do have some notches. It's really hard to see it on this fleece. But I'm going to start back on that center point, and I am going to curve this around and get this sewed up the other side, and then we will have our nose piece, which it'll make sense when it comes together. And I'm just going to finagle this around and line up the fabric edges. Do a couple reverse just to lock it in place. And I'm just going to have to keep kind of finagling this around. That the edges line up. It's a little tricky to sew the curves, but it will come together. Just have to take your time. And I just want to keep everything lined up. For a minute so I can kind of finagle this. Keep my edges lined up. The thing about fleece, it's very forgiving. So if it's not perfect, I wouldn't sweat it too much. I don't know if this side is going to be as perfect as I want it to be. Okay, so I've got both sides stitched. My edge is off a little bit at the top here, but I'm not going to worry about it. So when I flip this right side out, you're already going to see that I have a nose piece. And this will be the time, before I get the rest of the head together, is to put a nose in that. And I have some safety noses that I bought off on Amazon. And I can put my eyes on as well in the face. And this will give the bear a face. So, probably should have showed you all that in the beginning. So I've got some safety eyes and safety noses. And I'm going to poke a hole in that and put a nose in it. Hello, honey. Quincy just stepped on my foot. Oh, hey, hey! Delicious. My boy here is stepping on my foot pedal. You're messing me all up, really? Okay. Needle up. Foot up. This is what I mean by distractions. Alright. So I have this case here, and this is full of eyes and noses, and they have the safety backs on them. You can use these on your bear, or you can satin stitch the nose, which there is directions for that. I'm not a hand sewer. I don't like to hand sew, so I prefer to put my own eyes and noses on. Although I have did bears with you can like sew like little fabric eyes or something on it. I mean, there's all kinds of ways. It's totally up to you. But I suggest for little ones. Oh, I didn't get that side all the way sewed up. Oh, I sewed it on the notch. It's very hard to see fleece and the notches on this, so let me just finish sewing that up before I put the face on, because I got a little confused on that one. I should have went around the curve, so this one's going to have a little bit of, I'm going to fix it a little bit. Keeping it real here in my sewing room. So my fleece is a little stretchy. There. Now it's kind of closed up. So now I have a face that is ready for the eyes and the nose. So I'm going to work on putting the eyes in. And there is directions on here on how to set the eyes. But I like to do it at this point because once I get the back of the head on, I'm not going to be able to see very good. So I really want to put the nose piece and the eyes pieces on now so that they're all set in place, and then I can go ahead and put the rest of the bear together. So there we go. We have a face. And it's so cute. I love, 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 love. Alright, so on to the next step. Now we're going to make the ears. We're going to stitch 2 ear sections together, leaving a straight edge open, and clip the curves. Fleece is very stretchy and forgiving, so I'm not really going to worry about clipping the curves. So I have 2 ear pieces here, and I have 2 more ear pieces. 2 more ear pieces. And they are already right sides together because that's the way I cut them out. So I'm going to stitch these around the curved part. Just the curved parts, and I'm going to leave the straight edge open because we're going to put a little stuffing in there. So I'm going to go ahead and stitch these around. I didn't worry about back stitching on these because a lot of these are going to be sewed right in, so I don't really worry about the back stitching. Put that one. So there is 1 ear already done. I can just turn this right side out. I will have a little ear. And what we're going to do after I put a little stuffing in these, we're going to baste them to the face. So don't let me get ahead of myself. Other ear is done. I'm going to turn it right side out. And kind of just push it. And like I said, fleece is very forgiving, so I'm not going to get perfect with it, because it's soft and it's stretchy, and I'm really not going to worry about clipping the curves. If you were doing like cotton, or you do a t-shirt backing, like the t-shirt stabilizer on the back of like Minky, or you know, you could use it on this if you wanted to, I would clip the curves, because that really is what it's doing, is stabilizing your piece, and it's not, and it won't be stretchy. It's trying to keep everything nice and stabilized. So you can see now these are going to attach to the front of the head, but before I do that, I am going to get a little stuffing, like a little pinch of stuffing, and just put it inside the ears, and that will give them a little shape. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take a little bit of stuffing, and this might even be like enough for both ears, and I'm just going to kind of divide that in half, and I really just want a little small golf ball size, kind of, it's really fluffy, and I'm just going to put that in my ear. And this will give it some shape. And I want to kind of tuck it in there because the edges of this, I'm going to base this ear down very close to the edge of my bear head. And don't worry, this will all get sewed on. So, got the ears, turn right side out and press. We're not pressing because this is fleece, but if you were using cotton, you would press it and clip your curves and all that. So I'm stuffing the ear slightly, straight stitch edge of ear together, and pin ear to the head center and side, matching large and small dots. I don't have the large and small dots. You can do the dots on your fabric. This is fleece. I've made enough of these, and I usually position my ears just over the seam of the front of the center front of the bear head. So. And instead of closing these up, I'm going to baste mine, or actually I'm not going to baste. I'm going to stitch them very close to the edge because I will be stitching the back of the head on too, so I'll be restitching. So this is just going to hold them in place. So I'm going to stitch it very close to the edge to hold it, and I'm just putting the edge of the ear over that seam on the front of the face. So it's just probably about maybe a ½ inch over the seam on the end of my ear. And I want to make sure that I have both edges in the machine, because if you miss it, you're going to have a hole, which wouldn't be good. And I'm going to kind of stitch this to the edge. I'm going to make my stitch just a little bit longer. Let's see, we're going to change this to heavy, so that will give me a little bit longer stitch. And then I'm going to make sure I got all of my edges aligned, and I'm going to sew it right close to the edge so it's stitched on, and everything will stay in place and my stuffing won't come out either. I'm just going to check this to make sure it's on. There is a little hole there. I don't want that because I want to make sure everything is closed up. So I'm just going to go back on this side and make sure I stitch everything. And I'm just stitching it close to the edge just to keep it on there. But I want to make sure that I've caught all of my fabric, because this could come back and haunt me later if I don't catch it. So at least I know it's sewed. This is just how I do it. So you all sew differently. But there is the first ear. I've got it all caught in there, and I've just kind of got it close to the edge. Now I'm going to be putting the back of the head on, so I'm going to be sewing over that ear again, but we'll get to that later. I'm just putting them in place. I know I have them in place. So I got them all stuffed. And then this one I want to put over here. And I'm going to put it just a little over that seam. And I'm just going to sew it close to the edge so it's on there and it's already closed. And this is a lot of bulk I'm sewing through here, and I want to make sure I don't catch the back of that. I will check it, and it looks good. I've got everything. So now you can kind of see I have the bear head with the ears. And I have stitched mine on just to keep them in place, and it makes it just faster and easier. And once you make enough of these, you'll know what you're doing and what works for you. And I want to make sure I get all these little threads so I don't have them sticking out of my seams later on. That can be annoying. Okay, so you can see it really is starting to take form. I got the eyes, the nose, the ear, and the front of the face together. So, okay, so now we need to stitch the head back sections together along the center back seam. So the head back is this funny looking thing right here. It almost looks like a spade. And the center back seam, you can see my little dotted lines on that. That is where I'm going to sew, and you have the triple notches here. So I have kind of like a large hump on that side, so I know that's the side I'm going to sew on. And my right sides are already together. So I'll move that pattern piece to the side, and I am going to sew from the very pointy part on the top along that big notch and down to the bottom. And this is the head back. And this is kind of curvy, so you're just going to have to follow along the curve. And the notches are just the guide to make sure that you're getting everything on the sewing the right side. These notches on the bottom are your neck, and they will help with your neck pieces to line everything up. But this is the back of her head, and now you can kind of see it kind of arches out, so it gives your head shape. It'll have that roundness to it. So, and it tells you to clip your curves, but I'm working with fleece. This is very stretchy, so I'm not really going to worry about clipping the curves. And let's see, I'm going to stitch the head back to the head center and sides matching centers, leaving neck edges open. So what we're going to do is we're going to tuck our ears down, and I'm going to put this head back onto the head front. And there should be there's a little notch here, and there's a little notch on the other side. There's a notch on the side of my bear face. So I'm putting right sides together. Oops, get this together. So that my seam side will be out, and I'm going to match those notches. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to use some of my clips here. And we can clip those two notches together, so we know we got everything straight. So I'm just going to put a clip there. I'm going to put a clip on the bottom here, the bottom edge. Get it together. There we go. And let's see. Let's do the other side. These sides we want to match up. So the other little notches, I'm lining up the notches for the face and the back of the head, and I'm going to put a clip in there. And then I'm going to clip the bottom just to keep everything nice and straight. Oops. I got to keep my pieces together, and I'm trying to finagle my clips on here. Sorry, I'm not very good at trying to show you, and normally I'd put this in my lap. Okay, so now I want to make sure my ears are tucked inside. Everything should be tucked inside. You don't want your ears sticking out, or when you sew it together you're not going to have any ears. So I'm going to I'll lay this on my lap. I'm going to clip this together because this works best for me. So get everything lined up. So the ears are all tucked in. just so I can get this closed together. And you can use pins. The clips just work better for me, so I just want to get everything together here. So my seam should be right in the middle, I think, right in the middle of his ears. So I have to use my knees to hold this for me so I can get it together. I'm really showing you how I do things here. It's not always easy for me to show how I do things. I just do it. Okay. So you can see I've got the front of the face and the back of the head, and this is all clipped together. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to stitch it all the way around and leave this neck hole open where these two notches are. That's going to be open. So I'm going to sew it all the way around the head. Okay. Let's get this so I can put my pins back in there, my clips back in there. I'm going to take that one. No, I don't want to take that one off. Never mind. Don't matter. I just need to get started on one side. So my notches are together. This is where we're going to go back over the ears again. But I know my ears are good and stuck, so I just want to make sure that I get all of my fabrics together. And it's going to be kind of thick. And I'm going to take my time going around these curves. Out of the way, Marnay. Almost there. Past that second ear and around the corner, around the curve. My notches are lining up. Okay, we should have a head. So I'm going to stitch the head back to the head center and sides, matching centers, leaving neck edges open, turn head right side out. So now we are going to have a bear head. And this is pretty much I think it's the hardest part to get through. Well, the hardest part for me was the nose piece in the head sides, but now you can kind of see what I've got here. I've actually got a bear head and the back of the head, and when this gets all stuffed up, it's gonna be just really cute. His eyes look pretty good. I think I've got him pretty even. The nose is really great, so hey, he almost looks like a puppet. So there it is. There's the head. So we'll set that aside, and we got to get to the next page. So I love that they have all these different languages on here, and then I gotta find the next one that has the English language. So what number are we on? We're on 5. So we're looking for 6 in English. 6 English. Oh, here we go. I should have put these directions maybe more on type it up on a paper, because I still always go by, nope, that's the wrong side. I still always go by these directions. Here we go. I just have all these different languages, and then I gotta find the next step. Okay, so the next step is to stitch body front sections together at the center front. So the body front, and I have it labeled. This is the body front. And when I, this almost reminds me of like a little pair of lungs when you open it up, or when I laid them out. So I'll take the pin out. I have a name for everything, but you can see I've got it marked. I have the stitch line where the double notches are, so I know that that's my stitch line on my little bare front pieces. This is actually the belly. My right sides are already together, so I'm going to stitch it down this side where the double notches are. So I'm going to try not to separate them and line them up and keep them all together. It's kind of amazing how fast this will come together after you get the head part put together. Please tell me it didn't come unthreaded again. Oh, we're good. And just gotta get a little bit of a curve on this one. But it didn't start right away at the top. Let me just go back over that a little bit. There. Okay, so now when I open this up, we have a little belly for our bear. So that's his belly. Okay, next step is make each leg. Oh, the legs are fun. Alright, I'm going to set the belly aside along with the head, and I'm going to grab the legs. So these are going to be really cool. Let me take the pattern piece off on this one. I know what the legs are, but I kind of like to keep everything together. So there's that, and we're done with that piece of pattern. So now I have two legs, and these are right sides together. This one's right sides together, so these are going to be two opposites. The legs, you have these notches on the back part of the legs. We're not going to sew in between those notches. You're going to want to leave this little section from here to here open, because that's where we're going to stuff our legs. We're going to sew this whole bear together before we stuff him, and he's kind of going to look like an empty little bear, but you'll see when you're going to stuff the legs separate, and you're going to stuff the arms separate, and then you're going to stuff the body and the head. So we'll have to hand sew. I know I hate hand sewing, but I've gotten really good at closing these up. We're going to use a ladder stitch to close these. But we need these holes open so that you can put the stuffing in the legs. And the soles of the foot, we'll get to that, but we're going to sew these. So I'm going to sew down the one side and go around the curve and to the bottom. You're not going to sew the bottom yet. You're going to start at the top and sew to that first notch, and then you're going to stop and cut your thread, and then you're going to start at the second notch, and then you're going to sew that little piece down. Same way with the other one. So I'll get that started, and I'll show you what we're going to do here. So I'm going to start with this, the back side, and I am going to sew just to the notch. And then I'll do a little back stitch, because I don't want to lose my stitches when I put some stuffing in there. And then I'm going to pull that out. You want to give me fits. I don't know why my machine's acting this way today. Like I said, I think it wants to show off. So now I'm going to go to the next notch, and I'm going to start stitching, do a little back stitch, and then go down to the bottom. A long piece of thread there. So I'm going to show you real quick how I left that hole. So you'll see now that we have a hole in between those notches, and that's where you'll want to be able to stuff his legs. So now I'm going to sew down around the front of the foot, around the curve, and to the bottom. Try to keep everything lined up because everything wants to kind of move on me. And there is one foot done. And you can see I can put my hand through the bottom, but you got the hole in the back, and it'll look like that. So I'm going to get the other one done, and I want to remember to cut all these little threads, because they could be a pain in the butt if they stick out. Okay, so set that aside, and we will get on to the next one. I'm going to sew the back part and leave the hole just like I did the first one. For some reason, I have that little space at the top. Go back over that again. Close it up. I must be getting low on bobbin, I'm sure. Let's go back. Okay, now I caught everything. Position that around. Okay, there we go. Okay, so the next part is putting on the soles. Normally on a lot of bears I would put like a cotton sole or something, or a different print, because it just makes it look interesting. But this bear is, I'm just going to put, I want him all white, so I'm not going to put a contrasting sole on his foot. But a lot of these that I've made, I would normally put a little contrasting sole on the foot. You can put a little heart on it, you can put a name on it, a date, a memory, because a lot of people like to do these for memory bears. And the first time I made these bears, I was scared to death. I made them for a girl, and she wanted bears made for her kids, made out of her grandmother's shirts. And I had did some different colored soles on the foot, and I put little hearts on the foot, and I put the kids' name in it and the year, or I think I put their year in. Yeah, I think I put the year in it. But they turned out super cute. So the ideas are endless. You can get creative with the feet if you want to. But this is just simple, and I'm just doing it for show. And I'll probably keep this one because I really like it. So, anyway. So I got the soles for the feet. And I'm going to take that pin out. And we'll put the pattern piece aside. All my pieces. Okay, so I got a sole here, and this is the right side. This one's the right side, so I want the right side up. Right side to the inside. These have little notches on them. My notches ain't very good on these ones, but I can see them, so I know I'm going to line up my notches to each side of the notch on the bottom of my foot. And I'll show you real quick. You can see the notches on the bottom of my foot. There's 2 of them. There is 2 notches on my sole, which they're not, I didn't cut them very good, but I know they're there, and I can line them up, so I know that my foot is going to get evenly placed into the sole. And I'm just going to clip these real quick. So I'm going to put a clip on each side of those notches so that I know that I have my foot on there. And then I'm going to put one at the back seam. And this will just help keep my foot in place. And then, of course, I've got the front toe here. And I think that's where I'm going to start. So I'm not going to put a clip in that because I'm going to start right here on the toe. But you can see I've got I've got 3 little clips, so it'll hold my foot in place so that when I put this on there, and I'm going to go from the top. You can go from the bottom or the top, but I think the top for me is easier. And I'm just going to kind of put that toe piece right down, and I'm going to start right in that seam. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to go all the way around this foot and just go around the curves. Now, I want to make sure I don't get any other fabrics in this, so you kind of have to be careful. I'm going to take that one out, and I'm going to keep my notches. So this is something you have to finagle. I did a lot of little feet because I have a dinosaur pattern, and I've done this with a dinosaur, so I kind of got used to it. But at first it was really tricky. And you don't want to sew on your other, you don't want to sew where you're not supposed to. Let's put it that way. So I'm just going around the foot. And I want to keep all of my edges lined up as I'm going around the curves. And I don't want to get any pinches in there, so I just have to be real careful to be mindful of where you're sewing. Coming to the second notch. I'm almost to the other side of the toe, and I just want to get that extra fabric out of the way. And we're going to get it all the way around. Back over that seam. And I just want to put a couple back stitches on it just to kind of lock it in place. And put my threads. Okay, so now, guess what? Technical difficulty. I am out of bobbin thread. So give me a minute and I will rewind. Alright, let's see if we can try this again. Alright, now we've back in business, got her done, cut off some threads. Long ones there. Alright, so now we're going to turn this right side out, and you can see I've got the little foot pad on here, and I'm just going to turn this right side out and push on the seams. And we've got a little foot. Really cute, huh? Okay, so I'm gonna get the other one done. And let's see, this was right side up, so we want the right side in. And I'm going to pin these in place. Pinned in place, clipped in place. I'll do this one this way this time. I doing? Whew, okay. Gosh, to be careful. Okay. All right. 2 feet. Aren't they so cute? All right, so the next. They are telling us to attach the legs to the belly. Okay, so we're back to our belly piece. The neck is up here, so you have this little bit of a curve. And we are going to attach the legs, and I want the seams in the middle. And the best way, so you don't get these on backwards, is you want your toes up, and then you're going to bring it forward. So you want your toes toward the belly. And I like to put these, and there's markings on the pattern, you could do these, but I try to keep the ends of my legs, the center of the belly and the end of my leg here usually has maybe 3/4 of an inch right there. So that's where I'm going to put my first leg. And I'm going to line up the other one just the same. And then I'm going to stitch this just into place. And I'm going to stitch it very close to the edge. So I'm just going to put this in here and I'm going to stitch it very close to the edge, just to hold it in place, because when you put this together you're going to be stitching over it again, and I just want to hold it in place. So they tell you to baste it or just stitch really close to the edge. So there is my first leg, and he's there. And then I want to position the other one, and I want the seams to come together. Toes toward the belly, and I'm going to put the end of this leg in the same distance as this one. It's probably about 3/4 of an inch, I'm guesstimating. So, and then I'm going to stitch this one into place right along that curve as well. Oops, I want my seams to line up. I don't want them to be off. I want them to line up, and I want to kind of position the leg in the curvature and leave a little space between the seam where the middle seam is. So they kind of use that middle seam as my guide to kind of position my legs. You can use the markings that tell on your pattern. It's just a guide to help you. And I'm just using my own judgment, so it's your bear. You do you. I'm going to get these little threads here too. Now I have my bare legs. They are attached to the front of the belly. So, And make sure your toes are pointing up, because you don't want to put your legs on backwards. So now I have a little space, and this leg might be a little bit further over than this one, but I'm not going to sweat if it's off a little bit. I'm just showing you how to put them together. So, okay, so we got the legs to the front, and it says to match the small dots. I didn't put the small dots in here, and it says to base, but I stitched very close to the edge because we're going to go back over this again. So now, we are going to work on the back. So I'm going to set this aside, and now we've got the body back. And the body back has this little triangle in it, and it's a dart. And this is going to make it so your bear can sit. So we're going to sew that together first. And I'll get rid of my pattern piece. So I have two pieces, the right sides are together. But I want to take this, the first one on the top, and I'm going to put that dart, I'm going to fold it so that the dart goes together. And then I'm going to sew it on from the edge here up to that point, or I'm going to sew off that point. And I'm going to do it with both sides, because this is going to give your bear, you know, a bottom so that he'll sit. So I'm just going to sew right along that edge. And then once I get to the end, I can kind of backstitch a little bit just to kind of lock it in place. And you can see where I sewed to the edge of the fabric here to the point. So now when I open this up, you're going to have like a little seam. And this, like I said, when you put these together, that's where he's going to have his little bottom. So I'm going to go ahead and do this one the same way. And sewed it from the edge to the end of the point. And then when you open it up, you're going to have that little seam. So now I want to put right sides together and match my notches. This has got the notches on the back here. Oops, I got wrong side. Wrong sides together. Or right sides together. Right sides together. Neck notches here are going to match up. You're going to have one notch on this side. You're going to have two notches on the back side. So these back notches, this is where we're going to leave a hole in the back. So, yes. On my pattern here, you see it says center seam line, but I've got it marked. I've got a little line on under each notch because you're going to leave that area open. So you're going to sew all the way from the bottom of this piece up to the first notch, and then you're going to start from the second notch and go all the way up to the neck. And then we've already sewed the little butt seam close. So you're sewing it on the double notch side, and you're leaving that space in between the notches open so you can stuff your bear. So I got everything together here right. I have to make sure I pay attention so I don't sew it together wrong, because that wouldn't be good. So I'm going to start up here, and I'm going to sew all the way down to that first notch, and I'm going to do a little back stitch because that's where I'm going to leave my hole so I can stuff his little body up. And then I'm going to come down to the second notch, and I'm going to start sewing and then do a little back stitch. And then sew it all the way around to the bottom of this little curve. It's slightly curved. And now we have the back. So you have a little hole in the back between those notches. That's where you're going to stuff it. And then, of course, when I flip this right side out, he's going to have a little seam in his back. And he has a little butt where he'll be able to sit. So now that we've done this, we are going to stitch the body front to the body back. Okay, so right sides together. So I want my back, and the body front. So the body front, when we sew these together, you got to tuck your legs up to the belly, toes to the belly, and you want them inside. And then we're going to match everything up, the seams and the notches. So I know right here I have 2 side notches to match the front to the back. Your neck here, you're going to have a little opening at the neck, so I'm going to clip right here at the top where the shoulders meet. And then I'm going to clip together where these 2 notches meet. And I'm just going to come around the curves and just line up the edges so everything's nice and neat. Remember, your legs are tucked inside. If you sew your legs on the outside, you're not going to have any legs when you turn them right side out. So everything has to be tucked in. It all makes sense in the end. And you want to match your seams together. You have your back seam and your belly seam, and they should match together. And I'm going to put a clip right where they meet, and then I'm going to put one right here where the leg is attached. And try not to get these clips caught into my... I have to be very careful. When this goes up and down, I got a clip caught in there, and I was like, oof. That was scary. Okay, so everything is lining up here. Just want to get everything clipped. Where's legs go? And then line up these notches on this side. Let's reclip that a little bit. That's not lining up very good. There we go. And then these notches will line up. And then I'm going to start, well, I'm going to start on the other side. So I'll just clip that right there. I'm going to start on this side because I'm a right-hand sewer. So, so you can see his legs and everything is tucked inside. This is the back where the hole is. This is the belly. And I'm going to start at the neck side, and I'm going to work my way all the way around to this side of the neck, and then I'm going to stop right here at the top. We are getting in the home stretch now. Things are going to start coming together quite quickly. Okay, so he's all the way sewed around, and now I just have the neck. So what we're going to do is we're going to take everything out and turn it right side out. So I'm just going to pull his legs out through his belly, and you see that we have, this is just so cool, isn't it? It looks like a little baby bottom or something. So we have my little bear, and we have his legs. So now we're going to get ready to put his arms on. Arms are really simple, and it's the last things we have to sew together. So I've got my 2 arms. They're right sides together. This is one side, and this would be the other. Very similar to the legs where you have these double notches on the sides. We are going to leave that hole between the notches open. So, excuse me. So that we can stuff the arms. So this will be the left, this will be the right. So let's see, I'm going to get started on the first one. I'm going to sew them this side. I'm going to sew down to the first notch and back stitch, and then I'm going to go to the second notch and go all the way around and back up to the side. So we want to leave that hole so we can get his stuffing in there. First one is done. Now we're going to get to the next one. All right, Now what we're going to do with these is we're going to turn these right side out. And we are going to attach these to the bare body. So, okay, I'm going to turn these right side out. I'm just going to flip them around. You can see how cute this is really going to be. It's just so adorable. And they're just so soft and cuddly. Kids love them. This will be a great project to teach to sew for a kid. They're really not that hard if you're an adult and you can cut out the pieces for them and kind of just, you know, walk them through. I think it's really very simple. I, for myself, am not one to understand patterns all that well, so it took me some time to really figure out this pattern. But once I watched Whitney Sews, so thank you Whitney Sews for teaching this, because now I just feel like I could do these. So now we've got our two arms made, and we are going to sew these to the sides of our seams here. So you got these side seams on your bear. And what we're going to do is we're going to take, this arm would be for this side. I am going to put the middle of my arm, I gotta make sure I got this on the right seam. So the side seam here of my bear. I want the very middle to be in the very middle of that seam. If that makes sense. And I'm going to just sew it right along the edge, real close to the edge, just to hold it in place. Because when we sew the head on, it's going to re-sew over this again. So I'm going to put the middle of my arm right in the middle of that seam. And I'm just going to stitch this in place close to the edge, just to hold it on. Just lining up my edges. And I just want to attach it. That's all I want to do. And we have these holes in the back of our arm. Remember, that's where we're gonna stuff it. So there is one arm, one arm on the bear, and the other one I'm going to put the other one on in the middle of this seam, the middle of my arm here. I'm going to put it right in the center of my arm into that side seam there, so that the body seam is in the middle. And I'm going to sew it very close to the edge. And just so it holds it in place. Okay, so there you can see we have the bear body together, and this is super cute, isn't it? So now the crazy part, the last part we have to do is attach the head, and I'm going to cut off these little threads here, because little threads sticking out just drive me crazy. I want to make sure I get them all off. I love this bear, I really love it. I think he would look super sweet with a nice pretty bow around him. I just like that he's white. Well, he's not really white. He's kind of off-white, but he's really pretty. Get all my threads. But he's so soft. These are great for babies. Baby shower gifts. Gifts for your grandkids. Toddlers love them. Adults love them. I love it. I would make a dozen of these things. They're just so cute and give them out as gifts. Okay, so the crazy thing we're going to do now is we're going to tuck his legs and his arms all down into his body. So we're going to kind of turn this inside out. So I'm going to reach in through the neck, and I'm going to tuck the arms and the legs all down into the belly. And I know this sounds crazy, but it all will fit. This is what I love about fleece, because fleece is kind of stretchy and everything just goes right in. So now you look like you got like this little bag. And his legs and his arms are all stuffed in, and there's his neck. So the front of my bear is this side. The seam side you want on the outside. So I know that I've got his belly side. And now I'm going to take the head. And the head I want facing forward. And you got to make sure that you get this in your belly the right way, or you're going to have your bear sewed with the head on backwards. And believe me, I've done it when I had a bunch of people in my sewing room and I wasn't paying attention and I sewed the head on backwards and had to tear it all out and put it on right. So I want the nose and the eyes to be facing the belly, which the belly is facing toward me, and the little seams in the back where his little butt is, that's where he sits. Those are in the back. So I'm going to take my head and I'm going to tuck it down in with the nose facing forward toward the belly. And there's notches on this that you line up. And what we're going to do is when we line up those notches, we're going to sew his head all the way around. Let's see. Where are you at? He's stranded?
Uh-huh.
Where do you gotta go?
Down by the ice cream place.
Okay.
I don't know how long I'll be, so.
Okay.
I love you.
I love you. Okay, so what I'm doing is I am just trying to align everything. So I have 2 notches in the back, and I want to line those notches and that seam. And I know I can't really show you what I'm doing because I have to hold it. But seams are important. The notches are important. There's 2 notches in the back of the head that line up with the back of the body. It is sewed. I did it. I did it. Okay, so now we have this hole in our back, and what we're going to do is we're going to pull our bear out through the back hole. So I'm going to start with his legs, and I'll get up here and kind of show you how I'm doing this. Get my pieces out of the way. So what we're going to do is we're going to pull the bear out through the back. And this takes a little bit because I like to leave, I don't leave a very big hole. I mean, I do keep it between the notches, but the smaller the hole, the less hand stitching that I have to do. And the thing with fleece and hand sewing, I like making the bears out of the fleece because the fleece is so forgiving, and the stitches kind of hide in the fleece, so when it's kind of fuzzy. And that's what I loved about the Minky too. When I made the Minky bear, if my stitches weren't as good as I'd like them to be, they were kind of hidden, so I couldn't see any of the stitches in the Minky. So working him. Here he comes. So we're just pushing him all the way out his back. So now when we get him out, we'll be able to stuff him up, all of his little appendages. And I like to start with the body. I usually start stuffing the head first, and then I stuff the belly, and then I will go on to the legs and the arms. So now we look like we got a little bear, and he is just empty inside, but you can kind of see how cute he is. I gotta get up close here so I can kind of show you. This is wonderful. You can see his eyes and his little nose. These are safety eyes and safety noses that I bought from Amazon. They work really well, and they give your bear a little more life. But if you're a hand sewer, you can very easily satin stitch a nose on. You can make your own soft eyes, the ideas are endless, but I really like the safety eyes, and I just think they give him a little character. I love his color. I think I will end up putting a nice little bow around him, and I get him all stuffed up, and he'll probably just hang out in my room. But you can see on the back that the seams, I'll show you how nice these seams all line up from the head to the back, to the little butt. You can see where we made those little darts in the back so that he sets. He's got seams on the back of his legs, and then the back of his legs, you can see where we'll stuff him up to his toes. His little ears are already stuffed. We put a handful of stuffing in them, but he just looks so great. I'm so excited. So I'm going to get him stuffed up, and I will dress him up maybe with a little bow or something, and I I will show you how how he looks. Okay, so I'm hoping you enjoyed this so far. Give you a close-up of the pattern pieces. Whoops. The pattern pieces that I cut are all this soft foam, and I just want to give you a close-up on how I labeled all of these, and I pinned these all to my fabric, and then I cut around them, but you can do it however you want to do it. If you want to use the t-shirt stabilizer, I would suggest that you put the stabilizer on your fabric first, and then you could put your patterns on there, and then I just took like a marking pen and drew around on the back side where the t-shirt stabilizer was, and then I just cut them out instead of trying to cut around the pieces. But I was just trying to do this because I wasn't putting any stabilizer on him, I was just cutting out the fleece, and I just wanted to make a simple bear. But these things are great to make your pattern pieces because you can use them over and over again, and I really hate the tissue paper, so I try to make something easier because I like doing these bears, and I make a lot of them. So this really works great. So I've got all the pieces, and they're labeled, and I just keep it in the drawer. But as you can see, it's so simple by McCall's. You can get this at Walmart. Really fun pattern. I just walked you through it, so if I can do it, you can do it. But stay tuned, and I will get him all stuffed up and dressed up, and I'll show you, I'll give you a quick review on the ladder stitch. The ladder stitch is where you just take your needle and your thread, and you take a little bite toward the end of the seam allowance, and you go through that side, and you go over to the other side and get a bite of that seam allowance, and you go over to the other side. You just kind of go back and forth, and it tightens it up, and it kind of disappears into the sewing so that the bear, you know, you don't even see the seam. So when you do it quite a bit, you get a little practice and you get better at it. I have to say I have gotten better at my hand sewing, but I'm not fond of hand sewing. But anyway, I'm babbling, and I'm going to get him stuffed up, and I will get back with you, okay? Okay, I've got my bear all stuffed. As you can see, he's got shape. I stuffed the back of his arms, the back of his legs, and I sewed them closed. I've got the backs of the arms and the legs all stitched up. And what I love about this fleece is very forgiving, especially in hand sewing. Fleece doesn't care if you're a good sewer, hand sewer or not. So I got the backs of his arms and everything all closed up. So I'm just going to kind of give you a quick demonstration of how I would sew this closed. And I've kind of got the seam allowance tucked down. I've got a needle and thread here already threaded. And I'm going to show you how I do the ladder stitch. I don't know if I can show you what you need to do, but I'm going to try my best to show you how I do this. So I'm going to start at the bottom, and I'm just going to take a little bite on the top of the seam allowance, and I'm just going to pull up my thread. And then I'm going to come over to the other side and take a little bite on that side and just draw it tight. And then I'm going to come back over to the side I started and take a little bite and draw it up tight. And then I'm going to come to the other side and take a little bite, leaving just the outside. I don't want to do it on the very edge. I want to keep it on the outside, so I draw my seam allowance in. Now that one there I got a little close, but I want to keep drawing it tight. And this is what they call the ladder stitch. And this stitch actually works really well to close up. And I'm just kind of closing him up here. I've got him stuffed pretty good. It's all on the preference of how much you want him stuffed. Do you want him soft, or do you really want him really firm? So I'm kind of in between, I think, on the firmness and the softness. I like him to be a little bit huggable and squishable, so I try not to make him too stiff. But I left my holes very small, so I didn't have to stitch up a big hole because I am not a fan of hand stitching. But I'll give you a quick demo on how I do it. So I'm just going from side to side and keep drawing my thread up. And I want to be careful not to take too big of a bite because I want my stitches to kind of be close and so that I can scrunch them up together. but you can kind of see how easy this is. I got in my closet of ribbon. I have a basket in there that's just full of all kinds of ribbons, and I dug out a nice light blue ribbon to tie on his neck just to kind of finish him off. So I've got that all ready too. We're almost to the end here. Just keep going side from side and it'll just close him up. I feel like a surgeon here. Stitching him up. Operation Teddy Bear. Yeah, this is what I love about fleece. Fleece is very forgiving. You can, you can't really do a bad job on fleece because it's just stretchy and soft, and the stitches just kind of hide. And of course, you can see I got some white thread here for my white bear. I would use coordinating thread to whatever color bear you decide you want to do. So I think one more stitch here, and then I'm going to finish him off. I'm going to kind of make a loop because I'm going to start knotting him off. And I'm just going to do one little one across the top. I don't know how y'all hand sew, but this is kind of the basics. I'm going to do one more knot off. And he is stitched. And I'm just going to take my needle and I'm going to kind of bury it down the middle somewhere and pull it out. And I'm going to cut it. And then I'll cut this little tail that I started with. So that's all done. And let's tuck my needle off to the side here. I don't want it to... Oops, my fingers are sticking to the threads. My fingers are very dry. Okay, so as you can see now, I have a cute little bear, and he is all stitched up in the back. You can't even see the stitches on it, so he looks really nice. So I'm super happy with him. I got some nice blue ribbon here. I'm going to tie this around his neck and kind of dress him up. So let's see here. Bear with me as I tie. This is how I tie. If you haven't seen my demonstration of how I tie with one hand, this is a good example. So I'm just tightening the bow on him. I'm going to make a loop and wrap it around. Can't say that I'm the best bow maker, but I can tie. And I think, let me just get this tight. Okay, so there you have it, my friends, from start to finish. This is the teddy bear tutorial. He looks great. So, if you like this video, give me a thumbs up. Please like, please subscribe. Stay tuned for my giveaway. And I'm going to work on getting my next video started for another quilt. It's going to be a goatee. A goat. So, alright, stay tuned. And I will get back at you later. Thanks for watching. Bye.